bring in former Trump campaign senior trade and jobs advisor Curtis Ellis. Well, Speaker Pelosi, Curtis, is running out of excuses. Are we going to see something happen this week?
Well, all the mood music is positive, as Larry Kudlow might say. Hearing very good things from everybody is very optimistic. Things are moving along very quickly. We could hear announcements any day now, and there's even some reports that have been published that there could be a vote as soon as next week. Look, Nancy Pelosi needs a win. Her moderate Democratic members of her conference need to show that they're doing something other than pillorying and trying to impeach the president. And this is the one significant piece of legislation that's on the books.
Even at the risk of giving President Trump a win.
That's right. And it's very interesting that the AFL-CIO leader, Richard Trumka, had his conference call, is talking with his constituent unions, and he's actually making positive sounds. I mean, so far, every utterance that has come out of his mouth up till now has been negative. Now he's saying he's asking his members if they want to go with this or push for yet more, instead of saying we need to push for more. So that's a good sign there. So it's this is a big, if this comes through, this will be a big win for the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and a big loss for China.
Yeah, great point, Curtis. And Steve Moore here. There's so much I want to ask you about this because this is such breaking news about this potential deal. It's very exciting. You're right that both Pelosi and Trump are big winners if they can pull this together. I want to ask you about Mexico. I can't possibly see how the Mexicans wouldn't ratify this in a second. I mean, Mexico is one of the big winners here. They may have to do a little bit more on the labor enforcement side, but come on, Mexico is going to sign this, will they not?
They certainly will. They stand to win, and they understand what's at stake on a larger scale. Remember, after NAFTA passed, so many of our industries moved to Mexico. Then after China joined the WTO, they moved out of Mexico and went to China. Now with the higher domestic origin rules and North American origin rules, those jobs will come back to North America, and many of them will go to Mexico. Mexico understands that. That's why they held up the Trans-Pacific Partnership over the automobile origin rules. They did not want to lose their auto industry to the Far East.
We actually have our own Maria Bartiromo that just said not too long ago that her sources are saying that the USMCA will come to the floor for a vote next week at a minimum. So that's, I guess, more sources telling her. I'm just a little bit more confused. Curtis, maybe you can shed some light on the issue with the pharmaceutical clause in there, the fact that it's supposed to be 10 years. I thought that was could be still a sticking point, and I didn't really hear Ed go too much into detail. Do you have any further additional information you can provide on that?
That is one of the been one of the sticking points for the Democrats. They have been saying, in a bizarre reasoning, they say it's somehow going to raise drug prices. We have a 12-year data exclusivity in the United States, and you know where it became 12 years? It's when we passed something called Obamacare. That gave the pharmaceutical industry, the biological drugs, 12 years of patent protection. Now they're complaining that it would be 10 years. So I don't know. Where that is in this final agreement, we have yet to discover. There's been a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, Curtis, let me ask you about the Buy American provision as part of the USMCA. Look, the government buys about $1.7 trillion every year, and now foreign firms, they can't bid for that expenditure. What do you say to the critics who say this could, in fact, raise prices for Americans, for taxpayers, because foreign firms can't compete with lower prices?
Well, the goal is to raise incomes for Americans. And if you have Americans producing the goods that the government's buying with the taxpayers' money, that's a good thing because then we'll be earning more. Look, the trade-off has always been we open our markets to foreign bidders so they can bid on government procurement, and then those foreign governments would open their markets so American firms can bid for government procurement in Mexico. But I got a big news for you. The U.S. government buys far more than the Mexican government, so it's an unequal equation.
A quick follow-up, if I could. So if there's a similar price that the U.S. government could buy from a foreign provider at a lower cost, you would rather see the taxpayer pay more by buying it from a domestic producer?
Well, it depends on which the foreign government it is. If it's China making it, absolutely I'd rather see them buy American. We should not be using Lenovo computers made in China when China just today said they're going to throw out all American technology from their entire system over there.
Hey, Curtis, Gary Kaltbaum, we've been hearing from some saying this is the greatest thing ever. Others say it's just a little bit different than NAFTA. If you were to take one or two provisions that really stand out, that'll change the playing field big time, what are they and why will they change the playing field?
Well, one of the big provisions is upping the North American content and the domestic content in the NAFTA vehicles, what's called a NAFTA car, the automobiles that get tariff-free treatment. It has to be almost 75% American-made or Canadian-made or Mexican-made. Couple that with the 40% has to be, of the labor component, has to be paid $16 an hour. This is a clear metric, enforceable, that will raise wages and raise domestic manufacturing. Another important part of this is part of these domestic content rules. We're now hearing that the steel and the aluminum, the metals that go into the cars, to be called American, to be called domestic content, have to be melted and poured in North America. So that will keep Chinese steel out.
Yeah.
That will make more American jobs, more Mexican jobs, more Canadian jobs. These are very important. Also, we have currency manipulation provisions for the first time in any trade agreement. This is huge.
Curtis?
And I should say, 6 years gets to be reviewed in 6 years. We're not going to be locked in to a lifetime perpetuity contract here.
Yeah. All right, quick last question. If the unions are for it, and it sounds like President Trump had a good conversation today, is there any way Democrats can be against it? They need the union support for the election.
It would be very difficult. There are going to be some diehard dead-enders that would vote against anything President Trump is for or has his fingerprints on. But if this comes to the floor, it will pass.
All right. Curtis Ellis, stay close to us. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Well,